Timing matters more than speed. Why patience will take you further than hustle. By T.M. Light. Description: This book is a powerful and motivational guide that challenges hustle culture and redefines success through the lens of patience and timing. It explores how slowing down, making intentional decisions, and trusting your personal journey can lead to sustainable growth, stronger relationships, and long-term achievement. Perfect for readers seeking clarity, balance, and purpose, it reveals why rushing often leads to burnout and missed opportunities. Discover how mastering patience, emotional intelligence, and strategic timing can help you build a more fulfilling life and achieve success without constant pressure. Chapter Outline. Introduction: The Myth of Moving Fast. Chapter 1: The Hustle Culture Illusion. Chapter 2: Understanding the Power of Timing. Chapter 3: The Science Behind Patience. Chapter 4: Why Speed Often Backfires. Chapter 5: The Quiet Strength of Slow Growth. Chapter 6: Learning to Read the Right Moment. Chapter 7: Letting Go of Urgency and Comparison. Chapter 8: Patience in Career and Ambition. Chapter 9: Patience in Relationships and Personal Life. Chapter 10: Practicing Patience in a Fast World. Conclusion: Trusting the Right Pace. Introduction: The Myth of Moving Fast. We are living in a time where speed is celebrated almost as a virtue. Everywhere you look, there is an unspoken pressure to move faster, achieve quicker, and produce more in less time. Success stories are often told in highlight reels: people who made it overnight, businesses that skyrocketed in months, individuals who seem to have compressed years of progress into a short burst of relentless hustle. The message is subtle but powerful: if you are not moving fast, you are falling behind. This belief has shaped an entire culture built around productivity and constant motion. Being busy has become a badge of honor. Rest feels like weakness. Slowing down is often mistaken for lack of ambition. The word hustle has been glamorized to the point where exhaustion is worn like proof of dedication. People pride themselves on sleepless nights, overloaded schedules, and the ability to juggle more than they can realistically sustain. But beneath this polished surface lies a deeper truth that many are beginning to feel but struggle to articulate: moving fast is not the same as moving forward. The obsession with speed has quietly distorted our understanding of success. We have been conditioned to believe that the quicker something happens, the more valuable it must be. Faster growth, faster results, faster recognition — these have become the benchmarks by which we measure progress. But speed in itself is neutral. It does not guarantee quality, fulfillment, or even direction. In fact, moving quickly without clarity can lead you further away from where you actually want to be. Consider how often people rush into decisions simply because they feel they should not wait. They take jobs that do not align with their purpose because they fear missing out. They enter relationships before they are ready because they feel behind. They chase opportunities that look impressive on the surface but lack depth or sustainability. In these moments, speed becomes a substitute for intention. The focus shifts from making the right move to simply making a move, any move just to keep up. What is often overlooked in this race is the hidden cost of rushing. When everything is done in a hurry, there is little room for reflection, learning, or thoughtful decision-making. Burnout becomes almost inevitable. The mind and body are pushed beyond their limits, and what initially feels like progress begins to feel like pressure. Decisions made in haste often require correction later, costing more time and energy than if patience had been practiced in the first place. Opportunities that require preparation and timing are missed because attention is scattered across too many directions. There is also an emotional cost that is harder to quantify but deeply felt. Constant urgency creates anxiety. It fosters a sense that you are always behind, always catching up, never quite where you need to be. Even achievements can feel empty because they are immediately followed by the next goal, the next deadline, the next expectation. The joy of the journey is replaced by the stress of the chase. This is where a powerful shift in perspective begins to emerge. What if the problem is not that you are moving too slowly, but that you have been taught to value speed over timing? What if success is less about how fast you go, and more about when and how you move? Timing is often the invisible factor behind meaningful success. It is the ability to recognize when you are ready, when an opportunity is aligned, and when action will produce the greatest impact. It requires awareness, patience, and a willingness to trust the process rather than force outcomes. Unlike speed, which pushes you to act immediately, timing invites you to act wisely. When you begin to understand the importance of timing, everything changes. You start to see that not all delays are setbacks. Some are necessary periods of growth and preparation. You realize that waiting is not wasting time when it is used to build clarity, skill, and resilience. You become more intentional with your actions, choosing quality over quantity and depth over urgency. This book is built on that foundation. It is not a rejection of ambition or hard work, but a redefinition of how they are applied. It challenges the idea that constant hustle is the only path to success, and offers an alternative rooted in patience, awareness, and strategic action. It encourages you to step out of the noise of comparison and into a space where your journey unfolds at the pace it is meant to. As you move through these chapters, you will begin to see patience not as a passive state but as an active strength. You will learn how to recognize the right moments to act, and the wisdom in holding back when necessary. You will understand how slowing down can actually accelerate meaningful progress by allowing you to move with clarity and purpose. You will also discover how to free yourself from the pressure of timelines that were never truly yours to begin with. Most importantly, you will be reminded that your life is not a race against anyone else. There is no universal clock that determines when you should succeed, achieve, or arrive. Your path is shaped by your experiences, your growth, and your readiness. When you honor that, you stop chasing speed and start embracing timing. The myth of moving fast has convinced many people that they need to rush in order to win. But the truth is far more empowering. The people who go the furthest are not always the fastest. They are the ones who understand when to move, when to wait, and how to align their actions with the right moment. This is your invitation to shift your mindset. To release the pressure to constantly hurry. To trust that taking your time does not mean you are falling behind, but that you are building something stronger, deeper, and more sustainable. Because in the end, it is not speed that determines how far you go, it is timing. Chapter 1: The Hustle Culture Illusion. There was a time when hard work was admired for its honesty, its discipline, and its quiet dignity. Effort was something personal, often unseen, and deeply rooted in purpose. But somewhere along the way, hard work transformed into something louder, more visible, and more performative. It became what we now call hustle culture, a relentless pursuit of doing more, achieving more, and proving more, often at the expense of peace, clarity, and fulfillment. The origins of hustle culture did not come from a bad place. It was born out of ambition, out of the desire for better opportunities, financial freedom, and self-made success. In many ways, it was empowering. It told people that they did not have to wait for permission to build the life they wanted. It encouraged initiative, resilience, and persistence. It challenged the idea that success was reserved for a select few, and instead promoted the belief that anyone willing to work hard enough could create their own path. But as this idea spread, it began to evolve into something more extreme. What started as encouragement turned into pressure. The message shifted from work hard to achieve your goals, to work all the time or risk being left behind. Rest became optional. Balance became secondary. The focus was no longer just on progress, but on constant activity. And slowly, without many realizing it, hustle culture stopped being about meaningful effort and started becoming about relentless motion. Social media played a powerful role in amplifying this shift. Platforms that were meant to connect people became stages where success was curated, edited, and displayed in its most polished form. You scroll through your feed and see entrepreneurs announcing milestones, creators sharing their productivity routines, individuals waking up at dawn to get ahead, and countless reminders that someone somewhere is always doing more. What you often do not see are the quiet moments in between. You do not see the uncertainty, the failures, the exhaustion, or the times when things did not work out. You see the outcome, not the full journey. And because of that, it creates a distorted perception of reality. It makes it seem as though constant productivity is not only normal but necessary. It convinces you that if you are not always working, always building, always pushing, then you are somehow falling short. This is where the pressure to always be on begins to take hold. It is no longer enough to simply work during working hours. The lines between rest and productivity start to blur. Even moments meant for relaxation are filled with thoughts of what more could be done. You check emails late at night, brainstorm ideas during your downtime, and feel a subtle guilt when you are not being productive. Over time, this creates a cycle that is difficult to break. You begin to equate your worth with your output. You measure your value by how much you accomplish in a day. And when you slow down, even for valid reasons, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like you are losing momentum, like you are slipping behind, like you are not doing enough. But here is the truth that hustle culture rarely acknowledges: being constantly busy does not guarantee success. In fact, it can often lead you further away from it. Hustle, in its most extreme form, prioritizes quantity over quality. It encourages you to do more, but not necessarily to do better. It pushes you to act quickly, but not always to think deeply. It rewards visible effort, but not always meaningful results. And because of that, many people find themselves working harder than ever before while feeling less fulfilled than they expected. You can spend hours, days, even years in constant motion, and still not be moving in the right direction. You can chase opportunities that look impressive but are not aligned with your true goals. You can fill your schedule with tasks that keep you busy, but do not actually bring you closer to where you want to be. This is the illusion of hustle. It creates the feeling of progress, without necessarily delivering real progress. The difference between motion and meaningful progress is subtle, but it is one of the most important distinctions you can understand. Motion is about activity. It is about doing things, checking boxes, staying occupied. It gives you a sense of movement, a sense that something is happening. But meaningful progress is about direction. It is about making intentional choices that lead to growth, fulfillment, and long-term success. Imagine someone running at full speed in the wrong direction. They are moving fast, expending energy and covering distance. From the outside, it might look impressive. But if they are not heading toward their intended destination, all that speed becomes irrelevant. Now imagine someone walking steadily, thoughtfully in the right direction. Their pace may be slower, but each step brings them closer to where they truly want to be. This is the difference that hustle culture often overlooks. It celebrates speed without questioning direction. It praises effort without evaluating alignment. And as a result, it can lead people into cycles of exhaustion that do not necessarily produce the results they are hoping for. There is also a deeper cost that is often ignored: the cost to your well-being. When you are constantly in hustle mode, your mind rarely gets the space it needs to rest and reset. Creativity begins to decline. Clarity becomes harder to access. Decisions are made under pressure, rather than with intention. And eventually, the body and mind begin to push back. Burnout does not happen overnight. It builds gradually, often disguised as dedication. You tell yourself you just need to push a little harder, go a little longer, do a little more. But over time, that constant push begins to take its toll. What once felt exciting starts to feel draining. Motivation turns into obligation. And the very thing you were working toward begins to feel distant, even as you are working harder than ever. The irony is that in trying to get ahead faster, hustle culture can actually slow you down. It leads to mistakes that need to be corrected, paths that need to be reconsidered, and energy that needs to be recovered. It creates a cycle where you are always moving, but rarely arriving. Breaking free from this illusion does not mean abandoning ambition. It does not mean becoming passive or unmotivated. It means redefining what progress looks like. It means understanding that success is not just about how much you do, but about how intentional and aligned your actions are. It requires you to step back and ask yourself important questions. Are you doing what truly matters, or are you just staying busy? Are your actions aligned with your long-term vision, or are they driven by external pressure? Are you moving with purpose, or are you simply moving to avoid feeling left behind? When you begin to shift your focus from hustle to intention, something powerful happens. You start to reclaim your time and energy. You become more selective with where you invest your effort. You realize that not every opportunity needs to be pursued, not every moment needs to be filled, and not every day needs to be maximized to its absolute limit. You begin to understand that rest is not a setback, but a necessary part of growth. That slowing down can actually give you the clarity needed to make better decisions. That patience allows you to build something more sustainable and meaningful. This is where the illusion starts to fade. You see hustle culture for what it is, not a guaranteed path to success, but a mindset that, when taken to the extreme, can lead to misalignment and exhaustion. And in its place, you begin to embrace a different approach. One that values timing over speed, intention over urgency, and progress over mere motion. As you move forward, remember this: you do not have to prove your worth through constant activity. You do not have to rush your journey to validate your ambition. True success is not built on how fast you move, but on how wisely you choose your steps. The world may continue to glorify hustle, but you have the power to choose a different path. A path where your efforts are aligned, your pace is sustainable, and your progress is real. Because in the end, it is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters, in the right way, at the right time. Chapter 2: Understanding the Power of Timing. There is a quiet force that shapes the outcomes of our lives more than we often realize. It is not talent alone, not effort alone, and certainly not speed alone. It is timing. Subtle, often invisible, and frequently misunderstood, timing has the power to turn small actions into life-changing breakthroughs or reduce great effort into missed opportunity. It is the difference between pushing on a locked door and walking through one that has just opened. Many people go through life believing that success is simply about doing more and doing it faster. They are taught to chase momentum, to keep moving, to act quickly before opportunities disappear. But what is rarely taught is that not every opportunity is meant to be taken immediately, and not every delay is a disadvantage. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to wait, not out of fear but out of awareness. Timing, at its core, is about alignment. It is about the intersection between readiness, opportunity, and awareness. It is not just about when something happens, but whether you are prepared for it when it does. You can be presented with the right opportunity at the wrong time, and it will not yield the results you hoped for. At the same time, you can take what seems like a small step at the right time, and it can completely change the direction of your life. Think about moments in your own experience when something did not work out the way you wanted. It might have felt like failure at the time. You may have questioned your abilities or your direction. But when you look back, you might realize that you were not ready yet. You did not have the necessary experience, clarity, or perspective. What felt like a setback was actually preparation. And when the opportunity came again, perhaps in a different form, you were able to approach it with greater confidence and understanding. This is the essence of timing. It is not about forcing outcomes, but about recognizing when conditions are right. It is about understanding that growth happens in stages, and that each stage has its own purpose. There is a time to learn, a time to build, a time to act, and a time to refine. When these phases are respected, progress becomes more natural and sustainable. Consider the difference between good timing and bad timing. Good timing is not always dramatic or obvious. It often feels calm, almost intuitive. You take action and things seem to flow. Challenges may still arise, but you are equipped to handle them. You feel prepared, grounded, and aligned with what you are doing. There is a sense that things are unfolding as they should. Bad timing, on the other hand, often feels forced. You may push yourself into situations before you are ready, driven by urgency or external pressure. There is tension, confusion, and a lack of clarity. You might achieve some results, but they feel unstable or unsustainable. You may find yourself constantly correcting mistakes, adjusting your path, or questioning your decisions. The difference between these two experiences is not always about effort. In fact, you might be working just as hard in both scenarios. The difference lies in alignment. When your actions match your level of readiness and the nature of the opportunity, progress becomes more effective. When they do not, even your best efforts can feel like they are falling short. One of the biggest misconceptions about timing is that it requires passivity. Many people equate waiting with doing nothing. They assume that if they are not constantly taking action, they are wasting time. But patience is not inactivity. It is not about sitting still and hoping things will happen. It is about preparing, observing, and positioning yourself so that when the moment comes, you are ready to move with confidence. Patience is an active process. It involves developing your skills, refining your mindset, and gaining clarity about what you truly want. It means paying attention to patterns, learning from experiences, and allowing things to unfold at a pace that supports growth. It requires discipline because it often goes against the urge to rush. And it requires trust because the results are not always immediate. When you understand patience in this way, it no longer feels like a delay. It feels like investment. Every moment you spend preparing yourself is adding value to your future actions. You are not standing still, you are building momentum beneath the surface. Recognizing when to act and when to wait is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. It is not something that can be mastered overnight, but it can be cultivated through awareness and experience. It begins with learning to listen, not just to external noise, but to your own inner sense of readiness. There are signs that indicate when it is time to act. You feel a sense of clarity about what you want to do. You have done the necessary preparation, even if everything is not perfect. There is a level of confidence, not because you are certain of the outcome, but because you trust your ability to handle whatever comes. The opportunity aligns with your goals and values, and taking action feels like a natural step forward rather than a forced leap. There are also signs that suggest it may be better to wait. You feel rushed or pressured, as if you are making a decision to avoid missing out, rather than because it is truly right for you. There is confusion or lack of clarity about your direction. You sense that you are not fully prepared, but you are tempted to move anyway because of external expectations. In these moments, waiting is not a weakness. It is wisdom. Developing this level of awareness requires you to slow down enough to notice these signals. It requires you to step out of the constant noise of comparison and urgency, and into a space where you can think clearly. This is not always easy, especially in a world that rewards quick decisions and immediate action. But it is necessary if you want to move with intention rather than impulse. Timing is not just a concept, it is a strategy. It is a way of approaching life that prioritizes alignment over urgency. When you treat timing as a skill, you begin to make decisions differently. You become more selective with your actions. You focus less on doing everything, and more on doing the right things at the right moments. This approach does not slow you down in the long run. In fact, it often accelerates your progress. When your actions are aligned with your readiness and the opportunities around you, they become more effective. You waste less energy on paths that do not serve you. You recover less from mistakes made in haste. You build momentum that is steady and sustainable. There is a confidence that comes from understanding timing. It allows you to move at your own pace without feeling behind. It frees you from the pressure to constantly prove yourself through activity. It gives you the ability to trust that your journey is unfolding as it should, even when it does not match the timelines of others. As you continue on your path, remember that timing is not about perfection. There will still be moments of uncertainty, and not every decision will be clear. But the more you practice awareness, patience, and intentional action, the more you will begin to recognize the difference between rushing and readiness. You are not meant to chase every opportunity. You are not meant to force every outcome. You are meant to grow, to prepare, and to act when the moment is right. And when you do, you will find that progress feels less like a struggle and more like a natural expansion of who you are becoming. Timing is not something you wait for. It is something you learn to understand, to respect, and to work with. And when you do, you unlock a level of progress that no amount of rushing can ever achieve. Chapter 3: The Science Behind Patience. Patience is often spoken about as a virtue, something admirable yet difficult, something we know we should practice but struggle to maintain. It is usually framed in moral or emotional terms, as if it were simply a matter of discipline or character. But beneath the surface, patience is deeply rooted in science. It is not just a mindset, it is a function of how your brain processes reward, risk, and time. When you understand what is happening internally, patience stops feeling like a vague ideal and starts becoming a skill you can intentionally develop. At the center of this process is the way your brain responds to gratification. Human beings are naturally wired to seek rewards. This is not a flaw, it is part of survival. When your brain anticipates a reward, it releases dopamine, a chemical associated with motivation and pleasure. This system is designed to encourage behaviors that are beneficial, such as eating, learning, and achieving goals. But in the modern world, where instant gratification is everywhere, this system can begin to work against you. Every time you choose an immediate reward over a delayed one, your brain strengthens the habit of impulsiveness. It learns that quick results are preferable, even if they are smaller or less meaningful. This is why it can feel so difficult to wait. Your brain is not just resisting patience, it is following a pattern that has been reinforced over time. Delayed gratification, on the other hand, requires you to override this instinct. It asks you to choose a larger, more meaningful reward in the future, instead of a smaller, immediate one. This is not easy, because it involves activating a different part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision-making, planning, and self-control. When you practice patience, you are essentially strengthening this part of your brain. You are training yourself to think beyond the present moment and consider the long-term impact of your choices. One of the most well-known illustrations of this concept is the idea that those who can delay gratification tend to achieve better outcomes over time. This is not because they are inherently more talented or more fortunate, but because they are able to make decisions that prioritize long-term benefits over short-term comfort. They are willing to endure temporary discomfort in exchange for greater rewards in the future. Impulsiveness and restraint represent two opposing forces within you. Impulsiveness is driven by emotion and immediacy. It seeks relief, pleasure, or excitement in the present moment. It does not consider consequences in depth, because its focus is on now. Restraint, on the other hand, is guided by awareness and intention. It involves pausing, evaluating, and choosing a path that aligns with your broader goals. Neither of these forces is entirely negative or entirely positive. There are moments when quick decisions are necessary, when acting instinctively can be beneficial. But when impulsiveness becomes the default, it can lead to patterns that undermine your growth. You may find yourself making choices that feel good in the moment, but create challenges later. You may prioritize comfort over progress, convenience over purpose. Restraint is what allows you to break this cycle. It gives you the space to choose differently. It allows you to step back from the immediate urge and ask yourself whether it truly serves you. This pause, though small, is powerful. It shifts you from reacting to responding, from being driven by impulse to being guided by intention. The difference between long-term thinking and short-term rewards becomes especially clear when you look at how people approach their goals. Short-term thinking focuses on immediate results. It is driven by urgency and the desire for quick validation. It often leads to decisions that prioritize speed over sustainability. While this can produce fast outcomes, those outcomes are not always stable or meaningful. Long-term thinking, in contrast, is rooted in vision. It is about understanding where you want to go and making choices that support that direction, even if the results are not immediate. It requires patience, because the rewards are not always visible right away. But it also creates a foundation for lasting success. Each decision builds on the last, creating momentum that grows over time. When you adopt a long-term perspective, your relationship with time begins to change. You no longer see waiting as losing time but as using time wisely. You understand that growth takes time, that mastery requires repetition, and that meaningful results are often the product of consistent effort over an extended period. This shift in perspective is what allows patience to become a strength rather than a struggle. One of the most significant ways patience impacts your life is through decision-making. When you are patient, you give yourself the opportunity to think clearly. You are less likely to act out of pressure, fear, or urgency. Instead, you can evaluate your options, consider potential outcomes, and choose a path that aligns with your goals. Impatience, on the other hand, often leads to reactive decisions. You may rush into opportunities without fully understanding them. You may say yes when you should pause, or move forward when you should reflect. These decisions are not always wrong, but they are often less informed. Over time, they can lead to patterns of inconsistency, where you are constantly adjusting, correcting, and recalibrating. Patience creates space for clarity. It allows you to gather information, to reflect on your experiences, and to approach situations with a level of calm that supports better judgment. It does not eliminate uncertainty, but it reduces unnecessary risk. It helps you move with intention rather than impulse. Training your mind to slow down is one of the most valuable investments you can make. In a world that encourages speed, choosing to slow down can feel uncomfortable at first. It may feel like you are doing less, like you are falling behind. But in reality, you are creating the conditions for deeper thinking, better decisions, and more meaningful progress. This training begins with awareness. You start by noticing your impulses, your urges to act quickly, your tendency to seek immediate results. You do not judge these impulses, but you become aware of them. This awareness alone begins to create a shift, because it introduces a moment of choice. From there you practice pausing. Before making a decision, you give yourself time, even if it is just a few moments. You ask yourself whether this action aligns with your long-term goals. You consider whether you are acting clarity or urgency. This pause becomes a habit, and over time it strengthens your ability to respond thoughtfully. You also begin to redefine what progress looks like. Instead of measuring success by how quickly things happen, you measure it by how well your actions align with your intentions. You focus on consistency rather than speed, on depth rather than volume. This shift reduces the pressure to constantly rush and allows you to approach your goals with greater patience. Another important aspect of training your mind is learning to tolerate discomfort. Patience often requires you to sit with uncertainty, to delay gratification, to trust the process even when results are not immediately visible. This can be challenging, because it goes against the brain's natural desire for quick rewards. But the more you practice this, the more comfortable it becomes. Over time, patience begins to feel less like effort and more like instinct. Your brain adapts to this new pattern. It becomes more accustomed to delayed gratification, more comfortable with long-term thinking, and more capable of making decisions that support your growth. You begin to notice a change not only in your actions, but in your experience. There is less urgency, less pressure, less need to constantly prove or achieve. In its place, there is a sense of calm, of confidence, of trust in your ability to navigate your journey at the right pace. The science behind patience reveals something powerful. You are not at the mercy of your impulses. You have the ability to reshape how you think, how you respond, and how you move through the world. Patience is not something you either have or do not have. It is something you build, one decision at a time. As you continue forward, remember that every moment of patience is an investment in your future. Every time you choose long-term growth over short-term comfort, you are strengthening your ability to create meaningful results. Every time you pause instead of rushing, you are giving yourself the gift of clarity. You are not just learning to wait. You are learning to think differently, to act intentionally, and to align your actions with a vision that extends beyond the present moment. And in doing so, you are unlocking a level of growth that cannot be rushed, but is always worth the time it takes. Chapter 4: Why Speed Often Backfires. Speed can feel powerful. There is a certain adrenaline that comes with moving quickly, making decisions on the spot, and staying constantly active. It gives the impression of momentum, of progress, of being ahead. In a world that praises urgency and celebrates quick wins, speed often feels like the safest choice. But beneath that surface lies a truth that many only discover after experience teaches it the hard way. Speed, when not guided by clarity and intention, often backfires. Rushing has a way of disguising itself as productivity. When you are constantly doing something, it feels like you are making progress. Your schedule is full, your mind is engaged, and your energy is directed outward. But activity alone does not guarantee meaningful results. In fact, rushing can lead to mistakes that quietly accumulate over time, slowing you down in ways you do not immediately notice. One of the most common mistakes made when rushing is acting without full understanding. When you move too quickly, you often skip the stage of reflection. You do not take the time to fully assess a situation, to gather enough information, or to consider the long-term consequences of your actions. Decisions become reactive, rather than intentional. You move because you feel you should, not because you know it is the right step. This can show up in many areas of life. Someone might accept a job offer quickly because it seems like a good opportunity, only to later realize it does not align with their values or long-term goals. Another person might rush into a business idea without fully understanding the market, leading to setbacks that could have been avoided with more preparation. In relationships, people may move too fast emotionally, overlooking compatibility or readiness, only to face challenges that arise from that lack of foundation. These mistakes are not always obvious at first. In the beginning, everything can seem fine. There may even be a sense of excitement, of having taken action, of having moved forward. But over time, the gaps begin to reveal themselves. What was rushed often needs to be revisited, corrected, or rebuilt. And this is where the true cost of speed becomes clear. Impatience does not just lead to mistakes, it can also cause you to miss opportunities that require time and awareness. When you are focused on moving quickly, your attention is often narrowed. You are looking for the next immediate step, the next quick result, the next visible outcome. But not all opportunities announce themselves in obvious ways. Some require observation, patience, and the ability to recognize subtle signals. Imagine someone so focused on securing immediate success that they overlook a slower, more meaningful opportunity. Perhaps they decline a role that offers long-term growth because it does not provide instant recognition. Perhaps they abandon a project too early because the results are not immediate, not realizing that they were on the verge of a breakthrough. In these moments, impatience becomes a barrier. It prevents you from seeing the full picture and from appreciating the value of what takes time to develop. There is also a deeper illusion that comes with constant activity. It is the illusion that being busy equals being productive. When you are always doing something, it feels like you are moving forward. But busyness can often become a distraction from what truly matters. It fills your time without necessarily fulfilling your purpose. You might find yourself completing tasks, attending meetings, working on multiple projects, and yet still feeling like you are not making real progress. This is because meaningful progress is not about how much you do, but about how aligned your actions are with your goals. You can spend hours on activities that do not contribute to your growth, simply because they give you the comfort of feeling productive. This illusion is one of the most subtle traps of speed. It keeps you occupied, but not necessarily advancing. It gives you the satisfaction of movement, but not the fulfillment of direction. And because it feels good in the moment, it can be difficult to recognize. Consider a relatable scenario. A person decides they want to start a business. Motivated and eager, they jump into action immediately. They create a website overnight, launch social media accounts, and begin promoting their idea without fully understanding their audience or refining their offering. At first, it feels exciting. There is movement, there is activity, there is visible effort. But soon, challenges begin to appear. The messaging is unclear, the product does not resonate, and the results are inconsistent. Now imagine a different approach. Another person with the same goal takes time to research, to understand their audience, to refine their idea, and to build a solid foundation. Their progress may seem slower at first, less visible, less dramatic. But when they launch, their actions are aligned, their message is clear, and their growth is more sustainable. In this case, patience creates strength, while speed creates instability. Another example can be seen in personal development. Someone eager to improve themselves might try to change everything at once. They adopt multiple habits overnight, set ambitious goals, and push themselves intensely. For a short period, they may experience a burst of progress. But without a sustainable approach, this often leads to burnout. The habits are difficult to maintain, the pressure becomes overwhelming, and eventually they fall back into old patterns. In contrast, someone who takes a gradual approach focuses on one habit at a time, building consistency and allowing change to integrate naturally. Their progress may be slower, but it is deeper and more lasting. They are not just changing their actions, they are transforming their mindset and behavior in a way that can be sustained over time. These scenarios highlight a key truth: rushing often leads to rework. When you skip steps, overlook details, or act without clarity, you create problems that need to be fixed later. This rework requires additional time, energy, and effort, often more than if you had approached things patiently from the beginning. Rework is not just about correcting mistakes. It is about rebuilding trust in your decisions, regaining lost momentum, and recovering from the emotional toll of setbacks. It can feel frustrating, especially when you realize that the extra effort could have been avoided. And yet, it is a common consequence of prioritizing speed over intention. Burnout is another significant cost of rushing. When you are constantly pushing yourself to move faster, to do more, to achieve quickly, you place a continuous demand on your energy. There is little space for rest, reflection, or recovery. Over time, this leads to exhaustion, not just physical, but mental and emotional as well. Burnout does not always appear suddenly. It builds gradually, often masked by motivation. You may feel driven, focused, and determined at first. But as the pace continues without balance, the energy that once fueled you begins to fade. Tasks that once felt exciting start to feel heavy. Motivation turns into obligation. And eventually, the desire to continue becomes difficult to sustain. What makes burnout particularly challenging is that it can distance you from the very goals you were working toward. Instead of bringing you closer, it forces you to pause, to recover, to step back. In trying to go faster, you end up needing to stop. This is why understanding the limits of speed is so important. Speed is not inherently negative. There are moments when quick action is necessary, when decisiveness is valuable. But when speed becomes the default approach, without consideration for timing, clarity, and sustainability, it begins to work against you. The goal is not to eliminate speed, but to balance it with awareness. To recognize when it is appropriate to move quickly, and when it is necessary to slow down. To understand that not every situation requires immediate action, and that sometimes the most effective step is to pause and think. When you begin to shift your mindset in this way, you start to see progress differently. You no longer measure it by how fast you are moving, but by how aligned your actions are with your purpose. You become more intentional, more thoughtful, and more strategic in your approach. You learn to value depth over urgency, clarity over speed, and sustainability over quick results. You understand that building something meaningful takes time, and that rushing the process often leads to outcomes that need to be revisited. Most importantly, you begin to trust that you do not need to rush to succeed. That your journey does not need to match the pace of others. That taking your time is not a disadvantage, but a strength. Speed may give you the illusion of getting ahead, but timing is what ensures you arrive where you truly want to be. And when you align your actions with the right timing, you move not just faster but wiser, and that is what creates lasting success. Chapter 5: The Quiet Strength of Slow Growth. In a world that celebrates sudden success and dramatic breakthroughs, slow growth can feel almost invisible. It does not come with loud announcements or instant recognition. It unfolds quietly, often behind the scenes, in ways that are not immediately noticeable to others, or even to yourself. And yet, within that quietness lies one of the most powerful forces for lasting success. Slow growth is often misunderstood, because it does not satisfy the desire for immediate results. It asks you to trust a process that does not always show visible rewards right away. It requires patience, consistency, and a belief that what you are building will eventually take shape. In a culture that thrives on speed, this can feel uncomfortable. But what many fail to realize is that the most sustainable and meaningful achievements are rarely built overnight. They are the result of steady, intentional effort over time. Rapid progress can be exciting. It creates a surge of motivation and a sense of momentum that feels powerful. But rapid spikes often lack stability. They are difficult to maintain because they are not always supported by a strong foundation. When growth happens too quickly without the necessary structure, it can lead to pressure, imbalance, and eventual decline. What rises quickly can also fall just as fast. Sustainable progress, on the other hand, is different. It is not driven by urgency, but by consistency. It is not about how much you can achieve in a short period, but about how steadily you can move forward over time. This kind of progress may seem slower on the surface, but it builds something far more valuable: resilience, depth, and stability. When you focus on sustainable growth, you are not just chasing results, you are developing the capacity to maintain those results. You are strengthening your skills, refining your approach, and creating systems that support long-term success. Each step builds on the last, creating a structure that can withstand challenges and adapt to change. One of the most powerful aspects of slow growth is the compounding effect of consistent effort. At first, progress may seem small, almost insignificant. You put in the work, but the results are not immediately visible. It can feel like you are moving but not advancing. This is where many people become discouraged. They mistake the lack of immediate results for a lack of progress. But what is happening beneath the surface is far more important. Each small effort is building on the previous one. Skills are developing, habits are forming, and understanding is deepening. Over time, these small gains begin to accumulate. What once seemed like minimal progress starts to expand, creating momentum that becomes increasingly powerful. Compounding is subtle at first, but transformative over time. It is like planting a seed. In the beginning, there is little to see. The growth is happening underground, where roots are forming and strengthening. This stage is crucial, even though it is not visible. Without strong roots, the plant cannot sustain itself when it begins to grow above the surface. In the same way, your efforts during periods of slow growth are laying the foundation for future success. You are building the roots that will support everything that comes later. And when the visible results do begin to appear, they are stronger, more stable, and more sustainable because of the work that was done quietly over time. Building skills and foundations is an essential part of this process. True mastery cannot be rushed. It requires repetition, practice, and the willingness to learn from mistakes. When you allow yourself the time to develop your abilities, you gain a deeper understanding of what you are doing. You become more confident, more capable, and more prepared to handle challenges. When growth is rushed, these foundations are often skipped or weakened. You may achieve results quickly, but without the underlying skills to support them, those results can be difficult to maintain. This is why many people experience cycles of rapid progress, followed by setbacks. They build quickly, but without the depth needed to sustain that growth. Slow growth, in contrast, ensures that each step is supported by a solid foundation. You are not just moving forward, you are strengthening your ability to continue moving forward. This creates a sense of stability that allows you to handle obstacles with greater resilience. There are countless real-life examples of individuals and journeys that reflect the power of slow growth. These are not always the stories that make headlines, but they are often the ones that endure. They are the people who spent years developing their craft, refining their vision, and building their path step by step. Think of someone who starts with very little recognition, but continues to show up consistently. They improve gradually, learning from each experience, adjusting their approach and staying committed even when progress seems slow. Over time, their efforts begin to compound. What once seemed like small improvements becomes significant advancements. Their work gains depth, their confidence grows, and their impact expands. These stories are powerful because they remind you that success does not have to be immediate to be meaningful. They show that persistence, when combined with patience, can lead to outcomes that are both significant and lasting. There are also examples in everyday life that may not be as visible, but are just as important. Someone who dedicates time each day to learning a new skill, gradually improving over months and years. A person who focuses on building healthy habits, slowly transforming their lifestyle in a way that is sustainable. An individual who works steadily toward a goal, making consistent progress even when it is not immediately recognized. These journeys may not be dramatic, but they are deeply impactful. They demonstrate that slow growth is not about doing less. It is about doing what matters, consistently and intentionally. Trusting gradual progress is one of the most challenging aspects of this approach. It requires you to believe in something that you cannot always see. It asks you to continue moving forward, even when the results are not immediate. It challenges you to stay committed, when it would be easier to seek faster, more visible outcomes. This trust is built over time. It comes from understanding that growth is not always linear, that progress can be uneven, and that results often take time to manifest. It involves letting go of the need for constant validation, and focusing instead on the process. When you trust gradual progress, you shift your focus from outcomes to actions. You begin to value the effort itself, knowing that each step is contributing to something larger. You become less concerned with how quickly things are happening, and more focused on whether they are happening in a way that aligns with your goals. This shift creates a sense of calm and confidence. You are no longer rushing to prove something, or to keep up with others. You are moving at a pace that allows you to grow fully, to learn deeply, and to build something that lasts. There will still be moments of doubt. Times when you question whether your efforts are enough, whether your pace is too slow, whether you should be doing more. These moments are natural, especially in a world that constantly emphasizes speed. But it is in these moments that your commitment to slow growth becomes most important. You remind yourself that meaningful progress takes time, that what you are building is not meant to be rushed, that each step, no matter how small it seems, is contributing to your journey. Over time, you begin to see the results of your patience. What once felt slow starts to feel steady. What once felt uncertain starts to feel grounded. And what once seemed distant begins to take shape in ways that are stronger and more sustainable than anything that could have been rushed. The quiet strength of slow growth lies in its ability to endure. It is not dependent on bursts of energy or temporary motivation. It is built on consistency, intention, and a deep understanding of what it takes to create lasting success. As you continue on your path, remember that you do not need to rush your growth to make it meaningful. You do not need rapid spikes to validate your progress. What matters is that you are moving forward, that you are building with intention, and that you are creating something that can stand the test of time. Slow growth may not always be visible, but it is always powerful. And when you trust it, nurture it, and stay committed to it, you will find that it leads you further than speed ever could. Chapter 6: Learning to Read the Right Moment. There is a difference between movement and alignment, between action and timing, between forcing something to happen and allowing it to unfold when the moment is right. Many people spend years chasing opportunities, pushing doors, and trying to create outcomes through sheer effort, only to find themselves exhausted and uncertain. Not because they lacked ambition or discipline, but because they had not yet learned one of the most powerful skills in life: how to read the right moment. Timing is not just about waiting, it is about awareness. It is about understanding when your preparation, your environment, and your opportunity intersect in a way that makes action meaningful. Without this awareness, it is easy to confuse urgency with readiness and pressure with purpose. One of the most important distinctions you can make is the difference between recognizing an opportunity and forcing an outcome. Opportunities often appear with a sense of alignment. They may still require effort and courage, but they do not feel chaotic or confusing at their core. There is a level of clarity that accompanies them, even if there is still uncertainty about the outcome. You feel prepared enough to take the next step, and the action feels like a natural progression rather than a desperate attempt to move forward. Forcing an outcome, on the other hand, is often driven by impatience. It comes from the belief that something must happen now, regardless of whether the conditions are right. You push forward not because you are ready, but because you are afraid of waiting. There is tension in this process, a sense that you are trying to make something work rather than allowing it to develop. This distinction is subtle, but it is critical. When you learn to recognize the difference, you begin to move with greater intention. You stop chasing everything and start choosing what truly aligns with your path. There are signs that can help you understand whether it is the right time to act. When the timing is right, you often experience a sense of clarity. You understand what you need to do, even if you do not have every detail figured out. There is a quiet confidence, not because you are certain of success, but because you trust your preparation. You feel stretched but not overwhelmed, challenged but not lost. In these moments, action feels purposeful. It is not rushed or reactive. You are not trying to prove something or keep up with others. You are simply responding to an opportunity that aligns with where you are and where you want to go. On the other hand, there are signs that suggest it may not be the right time. You may feel pressured to act quickly, as if delaying would mean missing out entirely. There is confusion about your direction, and your decisions feel driven by external expectations rather than internal clarity. You may sense that you are not fully prepared, but you push forward anyway, because waiting feels uncomfortable. When you act from this place, the experience often feels strained. You encounter obstacles that could have been avoided with more preparation. You find yourself second-guessing your decisions, adjusting constantly, and feeling disconnected from the process. Learning to recognize these signals requires developing awareness and intuition. Awareness begins with paying attention to your thoughts, your emotions, your environment, and the patterns that emerge over time. It involves slowing down enough to notice what is happening beneath the surface. Intuition, in this context, is not something mysterious or abstract. It is the result of accumulated experience and observation. It is your ability to sense when something feels aligned or misaligned, based on what you have learned over time. When you trust your intuition, you are not relying on guesswork. You are drawing from a deeper understanding that may not always be immediately explainable, but is often accurate. Developing this level of awareness and intuition requires practice. It requires you to step out of constant action and into moments of reflection. You begin to ask yourself questions before making decisions. You consider not just what you can do, but whether you should do it now. You observe how you feel when you are about to take action. Is it calm and clear, or rushed and uncertain? Over time, these reflections become habits. You become more attuned to your internal signals. You begin to recognize patterns in your decisions and their outcomes. You learn from both your successes and your mistakes, refining your ability to read the right moment. Observation plays a crucial role in this process. When you are constantly moving, you have little time to observe. Your focus is on doing, not understanding. But when you slow down, you create space to see things more clearly. You notice opportunities that might have been overlooked. You understand the dynamics of your environment. You become aware of timing in a way that is not possible when you are always in motion. Observation also allows you to see how others navigate timing. You notice the difference between those who act impulsively and those who move with intention. You see how preparation, patience, and awareness contribute to their outcomes. These observations become lessons that you can apply to your own journey. Preparation is equally important. Timing is not just about recognizing the right moment, it is about being ready when that moment arrives. Opportunities do not wait indefinitely. When the time comes, you need to have the skills, the knowledge, and the confidence to act. This is why patience is not passive. While you are waiting, you are also preparing. You are building your abilities, refining your mindset, and positioning yourself for the opportunities ahead. You are not standing still. You are growing in ways that may not always be visible but are essential. When preparation and opportunity meet, action becomes powerful. It is no longer about forcing results, but about stepping into a moment that you are ready for. This is where strategic patience comes into play. Strategic patience is the ability to wait with purpose. It is not about delaying action indefinitely, but about choosing the right time to act. It involves balancing awareness, preparation, and timing in a way that maximizes your effectiveness. In practice, this means knowing when to hold back and when to move forward. It means resisting the urge to act out of impatience, while also avoiding the trap of waiting out of fear. It requires courage, because both waiting and acting can feel uncomfortable at times. But when guided by awareness, these choices become more intentional. Imagine someone who is preparing for a significant opportunity. They spend time developing their skills, learning, and growing. When the opportunity finally presents itself, they are ready. They step forward with confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because they have prepared themselves for that moment. Now imagine someone who rushes into the same opportunity without preparation. They may act quickly, but they are not fully equipped. They struggle to keep up, to adapt, to deliver. The opportunity that could have been transformative becomes overwhelming. The difference is not in the opportunity itself, but in the timing and preparation behind the action. Strategic patience allows you to avoid this mismatch. It helps you align your readiness with your opportunities. It ensures that when you act, you do so from a place of strength rather than urgency. As you develop this skill, you begin to move differently. You are no longer driven by the need to constantly do something. You are guided by a deeper understanding of when your actions will have the greatest impact. You become more selective, more intentional, and more confident in your decisions. You trust that not every moment requires action, and that sometimes waiting is the most powerful step you can take. You understand that opportunities are not just found, they are recognized. And recognition comes from awareness, not from rushing. Learning to read the right moment is not about becoming perfect in your timing. It is about becoming more attuned to the rhythms of your life, more aware of your readiness, and more intentional in your actions. There will still be moments of uncertainty, times when the right choice is not immediately clear. But as you continue to practice awareness, observation, and preparation, your ability to navigate these moments will improve. You will begin to see that success is not just about what you do, but when you do it. That timing is not something you control completely, but something you learn to work with. And that when you align your actions with the right moment, you create a flow that makes progress feel natural, purposeful, and deeply fulfilling. The world may continue to push you to move faster, to act quickly, to seize every opportunity immediately. But you now understand something more powerful. You understand that the right moment cannot be rushed, and that when you learn to recognize it, you move not just with speed, but with wisdom. Chapter 7. Letting go of urgency and comparison. There is a quiet pressure that many people carry, often without fully realizing it. It is not always spoken aloud, but it lingers in the background of decisions, thoughts, and emotions. It is the feeling that you should be further ahead than you are. That you should be doing more, achieving more, becoming more, faster. This pressure does not come from your own path alone. It is shaped by comparison. Comparison has a way of distorting your perception of time. It takes someone else's journey, removes the context, and places it next to your own as if they are meant to follow the same timeline. You see where others are, and unconsciously measure where you are against it. And in that moment something shifts. What once felt like progress now feels like delay. What once felt like growth now feels like inadequacy. This is where urgency begins to take hold. Not because you suddenly lost your direction, but because you feel like you are behind. The focus shifts from building something meaningful to catching up. Decisions become driven by the need to close a gap that may not even be real. You begin to move faster, not because it is right for you, but because it feels necessary. The truth is, comparison fuels the need to rush in ways that are subtle but powerful. It introduces a timeline that was never yours to begin with. It convinces you that there is a standard pace you should be following, and that deviating from it means you are falling short. But this belief is flawed at its core because it ignores one fundamental reality: no two journeys are the same. Every person's path is shaped by different experiences, different opportunities, different challenges, and different timing. What you see on the surface is only a small part of the story. You do not see the years of preparation, the setbacks, the moments of doubt, or the circumstances that influence their progress. And yet, you compare your full journey to their visible highlights. This creates an illusion. It makes it seem as though others are moving faster, achieving more, and reaching milestones sooner. And in response, you feel the need to accelerate your own path, to keep up, to prove that you are not behind. But in doing so, you risk losing sight of what truly matters: alignment. The danger of measuring your timeline against others is that it shifts your focus away from your own growth. Instead of asking what is right for you, you begin to ask how you can match or exceed what others are doing. Instead of moving with intention, you move with pressure. And over time, this can lead you down paths that do not truly belong to you. You might pursue goals that are not aligned with your values, simply because they are considered markers of success. You might rush into decisions that feel impressive on the outside, but lack meaning on the inside. You might overlook opportunities that take longer to develop, in favor of those that offer quicker validation. This is how comparison quietly reshapes your journey. It does not always appear as something negative. It can disguise itself as motivation, as inspiration, as a desire to improve. But when it creates urgency that is not rooted in your own purpose, it becomes a distraction. Social pressure amplifies this effect. The world around you often reinforces the idea that success should happen quickly. There are expectations about where you should be at certain stages of your life. There are narratives about what it means to be ahead or behind. And these narratives can become internalized, shaping how you view your own progress. The fear of falling behind is one of the most powerful drivers of urgency. It creates a sense of scarcity, as if opportunities are limited and time is running out. It makes you feel like you need to act now before it is too late. But this fear is often based on assumptions rather than reality. Life is not a race with a fixed finish line. There is no universal schedule that determines when you should achieve certain milestones. What feels like behind is often just a perception shaped by external comparisons. When you step back and look at your journey on its own terms, you may realize that you are exactly where you need to be. Letting go of urgency begins with reframing your understanding of success. Instead of viewing success as something that must happen within a certain time frame, you begin to see it as something that unfolds through alignment and readiness. You recognize that timing is not about keeping pace with others, but about moving in a way that supports your growth. Personal timing is different for everyone. It is influenced by your experiences, your goals, and your level of preparation. What is right for someone else may not be right for you, not because you are lacking, but because your path is different. When you embrace this idea, you free yourself from the pressure to conform to timelines that were never designed for you. This does not mean you stop striving or growing. It means you shift your focus from speed to alignment. You begin to ask yourself whether your actions are bringing you closer to what truly matters, rather than whether they are keeping you on pace with others. You measure progress by depth and meaning, not by comparison. Building confidence in your own pace is a gradual process. It requires you to trust yourself, even when the world around you is moving differently. It involves making decisions that feel right for you, even if they do not match external expectations. It means being comfortable with the idea that your journey may look different, and that this difference is not a weakness but a strength. Confidence grows when you see the results of your own alignment. When you make choices that reflect your values, you begin to feel more grounded. When you move at a pace that allows you to grow fully, you become more capable and prepared. When you trust your timing, you reduce the anxiety that comes from trying to keep up. There will still be moments when comparison arises. It is a natural part of being human. But the difference is in how you respond to it. Instead of allowing it to create urgency, you use it as a point of reflection. You remind yourself that someone else's progress does not diminish your own, that their timing does not define yours. You begin to shift your attention back to your own path. You focus on what you are building, what you are learning, and where you are going. You celebrate your progress, even when it is not as visible or as fast as others. You recognize that meaningful growth often happens quietly, and that it is not always meant to be compared. As you let go of urgency and comparison, something powerful begins to happen. You experience a sense of freedom. You are no longer driven by the need to prove or compete. You are guided by your own vision, your own pace, and your own timing. This freedom allows you to move with greater intention. You make decisions based on what aligns with your goals, rather than what satisfies external expectations. You take the time to build, to learn, and to grow in a way that is sustainable. You become more present in your journey, rather than constantly looking ahead or to the side. Letting go of urgency does not mean losing ambition. It means refining it. It means directing your energy toward what truly matters, rather than scattering it in an attempt to keep up. It means understanding that your journey is not defined by how quickly you move, but by how deeply you grow. Your path is yours alone. It does not need to mirror anyone else's. It does not need to fit within a specific timeline. It only needs to be aligned with who you are and where you are going. When you embrace this truth, you begin to move differently. You move with confidence, with clarity, and with purpose. You trust that your timing is unfolding as it should. And in that trust, you find a strength that no comparison can shake. Because in the end, success is not about arriving first. It is about arriving ready. Chapter 8: Patience in Career and Ambition. When people think about careers, they often imagine a straight line. A clear beginning, steady progress, and a predictable rise towards success. It is a comforting idea, one that suggests that if you work hard and stay consistent, everything will unfold in an orderly way. But real life rarely follows that pattern. Careers are not straight lines, they are winding paths filled with pauses, detours, unexpected turns, and moments of uncertainty. Understanding this truth is one of the most important steps in developing patience in your ambition. When you expect your growth to be linear, every delay feels like failure. Every setback feels like a sign that something has gone wrong. But when you recognize that growth is naturally uneven, you begin to see these moments differently. They are no longer interruptions, they are part of the process. There will be periods when everything seems to move quickly, when opportunities align and progress feels visible. There will also be periods when things slow down, when you are learning, refining, or simply waiting for the next step to reveal itself. These slower phases can feel uncomfortable, especially in a world that constantly emphasizes forward motion. But they are often where the most important development takes place. In these moments, you are building skills, gaining experience, and developing a deeper understanding of your path. This is the foundation that supports everything that comes next. Without it, progress may appear fast, but it will lack stability. This is why patience is not just helpful in your career, it is essential. One of the most common traps people fall into is prioritizing quick wins over long-term growth. Quick wins are appealing because they provide immediate validation. They make you feel like you are moving forward, like your efforts are paying off. But not all progress is equal. Some achievements may look impressive in the short term, but do not contribute meaningfully to your long-term goals. Skill building, on the other hand, is often less visible but far more valuable. It requires time, repetition, and a willingness to learn. It does not always provide instant recognition, but it creates the capacity for sustained success. When you focus on developing your abilities, you are investing in yourself in a way that cannot be easily taken away. Think of your career as something you are constructing over time. Each skill you develop is like a building block. The stronger and more refined those blocks are, the more stable your structure becomes. If you rush this process, you may be able to build quickly, but the foundation will be weak. Over time, this can lead to instability, forcing you to rebuild or adjust in ways that could have been avoided with more patience. Patience in skill building also allows you to discover what truly resonates with you. When you move too quickly, you may not give yourself enough time to explore, to experiment, and to understand where your strengths lie. You might chase opportunities that seem promising but do not align with your deeper interests or values. This is where the idea of waiting for the right opportunities becomes important. Not every opportunity is meant for you, and not every opportunity needs to be taken immediately. In a culture that encourages constant action, it can feel risky to wait. There is a fear that if you do not act quickly, you will miss out. But chasing every opportunity can lead to scattered effort and misalignment. When you are patient, you become more selective. You begin to evaluate opportunities not just based on how quickly they can advance you, but on how well they align with your long-term vision. You ask yourself whether they will help you grow, whether they will challenge you in meaningful ways, and whether they fit into the direction you want to move. Waiting does not mean doing nothing. It means preparing yourself so that when the right opportunity appears, you are ready to take it. It means trusting that the right moments will come, and that your role is to be prepared for them, not to force them. There is a difference between chasing opportunities and positioning yourself for them. Chasing is reactive. It is driven by urgency and the desire to move quickly. Positioning is intentional. It is about building your skills, your network, and your experience in a way that naturally attracts opportunities that align with your goals. Long-term positioning requires patience because the results are not always immediate. You may spend time developing skills that are not immediately recognized. You may invest in relationships that take time to grow. You may work on projects that do not yield instant results. But over time, these efforts begin to compound. They create a foundation that supports larger, more meaningful opportunities. Short-term gains can be tempting because they provide quick feedback. They make you feel like you are progressing. But if they are not aligned with your long-term goals, they can lead you off course. You may find yourself constantly adjusting your path, trying to balance immediate success with long-term fulfillment. Long-term positioning, on the other hand, creates clarity. It allows you to make decisions based on where you want to go, not just where you are right now. It gives you a sense of direction that helps you navigate uncertainty with confidence. Creating a career aligned with timing rather than pressure requires a shift in mindset. It means letting go of the idea that you need to constantly prove yourself through rapid progress. It means trusting that your growth will unfold in the right way, even if it does not match external expectations. This does not mean you stop working hard or striving for excellence. It means you approach your ambition with intention. You focus on what truly matters, rather than what appears impressive. You prioritize depth over speed, alignment over urgency, and sustainability over quick results. There will be moments when you feel the pressure to move faster, to take opportunities that are not fully aligned, to measure your progress against others. In these moments, it is important to return to your foundation. To remind yourself of your goals, your values, and your vision. You are not building your career for immediate validation. You are building it for long-term fulfillment. This requires patience, because meaningful success takes time to develop. It requires trust, because the path is not always clear. And it requires resilience, because there will be moments of uncertainty. But within this process lies a powerful sense of purpose. When you move with patience, you are not just reacting to circumstances. You are shaping your path intentionally. You are making choices that reflect who you are and where you want to go. Over time, this approach creates a career that is not only successful but also meaningful. It is built on a foundation of skills, experiences, and decisions that align with your vision. It is not dependent on quick wins or external validation, but on the strength of what you have built. As you continue your journey, remember that your career is not a race. It is a process of growth, exploration, and development. There will be moments of acceleration and moments of stillness. Both are valuable. Both are necessary. Patience allows you to navigate this process with clarity and confidence. It helps you recognize that delays are not always setbacks, that waiting can be productive, and that timing plays a crucial role in your success. You do not need to rush to achieve your ambitions. You need to align with them. And when you do, you will find that your progress becomes not only more sustainable, but also more fulfilling. Because in the end, a career built with patience is not just about reaching a destination. It is about becoming the person capable of sustaining it. Chapter 9: Patience in Relationships and Personal Life. In a world that moves quickly, relationships are often expected to follow the same pace. Connections are formed instantly, conversations happen continuously, and emotions can intensify in a matter of days or weeks. It can feel as though everything should unfold quickly, as if depth can be rushed and closeness can be created on demand. But the truth is far more grounded and far more powerful. Meaningful relationships take time. Real connection is not built in moments of intensity alone. It is built through consistency, understanding, shared experiences, and trust. These are not things that can be forced or accelerated without consequence. They develop gradually, layer by layer, through time spent, through challenges faced, and through the willingness to truly see and understand another person. When relationships are allowed to grow naturally, they become stronger. There is space for authenticity, for both people to reveal who they are without pressure. There is time to observe patterns, to understand values, and to build trust in a way that is genuine rather than assumed. This process may not always feel exciting in the same way that rapid connection does, but it creates something far more lasting. Rushing emotional connections can create an illusion of closeness that has not yet been fully established. When everything moves quickly, it can feel intense, meaningful, and even certain. But intensity is not the same as depth. It is possible to feel strongly connected to someone without truly knowing them. And when the pace outstrips the foundation, cracks can begin to appear. One of the risks of rushing is that it bypasses the natural stages of getting to know someone. Instead of allowing the relationship to unfold, there is a tendency to fill in the gaps with assumptions, expectations, and projections. You may see what you hope to see, rather than what is actually there. You may invest emotionally, before understanding whether the connection is truly aligned. Over time, this can lead to disappointment. Not because the connection was meaningless, but because it was not given the time it needed to develop fully. What felt certain at the beginning may feel uncertain later, as reality begins to replace initial impressions. Patience in relationships allows for clarity. It gives you the opportunity to understand not just how someone makes you feel in the moment, but how they show up over time. It allows you to see consistency, to experience growth together, and to build trust in a way that is grounded in reality. This does not mean suppressing emotions or holding back unnecessarily. It means allowing those emotions to be balanced with awareness. It means giving yourself the space to observe, to reflect, and to move forward at a pace that supports understanding rather than confusion. Patience also plays a crucial role in your personal life, particularly in your own growth and healing. Just as relationships take time to develop, so does your relationship with yourself. Growth is not something that happens overnight. It is a process of learning, unlearning, and evolving over time. There are moments in life when you may feel the urge to rush your personal development. You want to move past challenges quickly, to overcome difficulties immediately, to become a better version of yourself as soon as possible. This desire is understandable. Growth often comes with discomfort, and it is natural to want to move through that discomfort quickly. But healing, like growth, has its own timing. It cannot be forced without consequence. When you rush through your emotions, you may bypass the deeper understanding that comes from fully experiencing them. You may move forward on the surface, but the underlying patterns remain unresolved. Patience allows you to process your experiences in a way that leads to true growth. It gives you the space to reflect, to understand, and to integrate what you have learned. It allows you to build a stronger relationship with yourself, one that is based on awareness rather than avoidance. This is especially important when it comes to emotional maturity. Emotional maturity is not about having perfect control over your feelings. It is about understanding them, responding to them thoughtfully, and allowing them to guide you in a way that is constructive rather than reactive. Patience is what creates this space for understanding. When you are patient, you do not react immediately to every emotion. You pause, you reflect, and you choose how to respond. This pause may seem small, but it is powerful. It shifts you from being driven by emotion to being guided by awareness. Over time, this practice strengthens your emotional resilience. You become more capable of handling challenges, more grounded in your responses, and more confident in your ability to navigate your inner world. This is not something that can be rushed. It is developed through experience, through reflection, and through the willingness to grow at a pace that allows for depth. Trusting life's natural pace is one of the most challenging aspects of patience, especially in your personal life. There are moments when you may feel like things are taking too long, when you question whether you are where you should be, when you compare your journey to others and feel behind. In these moments, it can be tempting to force progress, to rush decisions, or to push yourself into situations that are not fully aligned. But life does not unfold according to a single timeline. Each experience, each relationship, and each phase of growth has its own rhythm. When you try to force that rhythm, you create tension. When you align with it, you create flow. Trusting this process requires letting go of the need to control every outcome. It means accepting that not everything can be rushed, and that some of the most meaningful aspects of life take time to develop. It means understanding that delays are not always setbacks, and that waiting can be a form of preparation. This trust is not passive. It is active. It involves continuing to grow, to learn, and to move forward, even when results are not immediately visible. It requires you to stay present in your journey, rather than constantly looking ahead or comparing yourself to others. As you begin to embrace patience in your relationships and personal life, you will notice a shift in how you experience connection and growth. Relationships will feel more grounded, more authentic, and more aligned. Your personal development will feel deeper, more meaningful, and more sustainable. You will begin to understand that meaningful connections are not built in moments of urgency, but in moments of consistency. That personal growth is not achieved through speed, but through reflection and experience. That emotional maturity is not about reacting quickly, but about responding thoughtfully. There is a quiet strength in allowing things to unfold naturally. It does not mean you are doing less. It means you are doing what matters in a way that supports lasting results. You are giving yourself and others the time needed to grow, to understand, and to connect on a deeper level. In a world that often encourages immediacy, choosing patience is a powerful act. It is a decision to prioritize depth over speed, understanding over assumption, and alignment over urgency. It is a commitment to building relationships and a personal life that are not only meaningful, but also enduring. As you continue on your journey, remember that you do not need to rush your connections or your growth. What is meant to develop will do so in its own time. Your role is to show up with awareness, with intention, and with the patience to allow that process to unfold. Because in the end, the most meaningful parts of life are not the ones that happen quickly. They are the ones that are given the time to grow. Chapter 10. Practicing Patience in a Fast World. Living with patience in a fast-moving world is not something that happens by accident. It is a conscious choice, one that must be made daily, often in small quiet moments that others may never notice. The world around you will continue to move quickly. There will always be pressure to respond faster, achieve sooner, and keep up with an ever-accelerating pace. But within that environment, you have the ability to create a different rhythm for yourself, one that is grounded, intentional, and aligned with who you are becoming. Patience is not something you practice once and master forever. It is something you cultivate repeatedly, through habits, awareness, and deliberate choices. It begins with how you approach your everyday life, because it is in your daily routines that your mindset is reinforced. To slow down and think clearly, you must first create space. When your days are filled with constant activity, noise, and urgency, there is little room for reflection. Your mind becomes reactive, moving from one task to the next without pause. This is where impatience thrives, because there is no time to consider whether your actions are aligned with your intentions. Slowing down does not mean doing less, it means being more deliberate in what you do. It means allowing yourself moments of pause between decisions. It means not rushing through everything simply because you can. When you give yourself even a few moments to think before acting, you begin to shift from reaction to intention. This can be as simple as taking a breath before responding to a situation, or allowing yourself time to reflect before making a decision. These small pauses may seem insignificant, but they create a powerful change in how you experience your day. They give you the opportunity to choose your actions rather than being driven by impulse. Mindfulness plays a key role in this process. It is the practice of being present, of fully engaging with what is happening in the moment, without being pulled in multiple directions. When you are mindful, you are not constantly rushing ahead to the next thing. You are aware of where you are, what you are doing, and why you are doing it. This awareness allows you to make decisions more intentionally. Instead of reacting to pressure, you respond based on clarity. Instead of chasing immediate results, you consider the long-term impact of your choices. Mindfulness does not remove urgency from the world, but it changes how you interact with it. Intentional decision-making is one of the most practical ways to practice patience. It involves asking yourself whether your actions are aligned with your goals, rather than simply acting because something feels urgent. It requires you to step back and evaluate, to consider whether this moment truly requires immediate action, or whether it would benefit from more thought. Over time, this practice becomes a habit. You begin to approach decisions with a sense of calm rather than pressure. You trust yourself to take the time needed to make choices that support your growth. And in doing so, you reduce the likelihood of mistakes that come from rushing. Setting long-term goals without urgency is another important aspect of practicing patience. Goals provide direction, but when they are tied to strict timelines or external expectations, they can create unnecessary pressure. You may feel like you need to achieve everything quickly, leading to stress and a constant sense of being behind. When you set goals with patience, you focus on the direction rather than the speed. You understand what you are working toward, but you allow yourself the flexibility to grow into it. You recognize that meaningful achievements take time, and that forcing them to happen quickly can compromise their quality. This does not mean you lack ambition. It means your ambition is grounded in reality and sustainability. You are committed to your goals, but you are not driven by urgency. You are willing to take the time needed to build something that lasts. Building resilience against pressure is essential in maintaining this mindset. The world will not always support your decision to move at your own pace. There will be moments when you feel the weight of expectations, when you are tempted to rush simply because others are doing so. Resilience allows you to stay grounded in these moments. It helps you maintain your focus, even when external pressures are strong. It reminds you that your journey is not defined by how quickly you move, but by how intentionally you progress. This resilience is built through consistency. Each time you choose patience over urgency, you strengthen your ability to do so again. Each time you resist the pressure to rush, you reinforce your confidence in your own pace. Over time, these choices create a foundation that is difficult to shake. Creating a lifestyle that values timing over speed requires a shift in priorities. It means redefining what success looks like for you. Instead of measuring it by how much you accomplish in a short period, you measure it by how aligned your actions are with your goals. You begin to value depth over quantity, clarity over activity, and sustainability over quick results. You create routines that support focus and reflection, rather than constant motion. You allow yourself time to think, to learn, and to grow without the pressure to immediately produce results. This lifestyle is not about slowing down everything in your life. It is about being intentional with your pace. There will still be moments when you need to act quickly, when speed is necessary. But these moments are chosen, not default. They are guided by awareness, not driven by pressure. As you practice patience in this way, you will begin to notice changes in how you experience your life. There is a sense of calm that replaces constant urgency. There is clarity in your decisions, confidence in your direction, and a deeper connection to your journey. You are no longer rushing to prove something or to keep up. You are moving with purpose, guided by an understanding of what truly matters. You are building something that is not just fast, but meaningful. This does not mean the journey becomes easy. There will still be challenges, moments of doubt, and times when the pressure to rush feels strong. But you will have the tools to navigate these moments. You will have the awareness to pause, the resilience to stay grounded, and the confidence to trust your timing. Patience is not about waiting for life to happen. It is about engaging with life in a way that allows it to unfold fully. It is about creating space for growth, for understanding, and for meaningful progress. As you continue forward, remember that you have the ability to choose your pace. You do not have to follow the speed of the world around you. You can create your own rhythm, one that supports your growth and aligns with your purpose. In a fast world, choosing patience is not always easy. But it is always powerful. And when you practice it consistently, you will find that it leads you not just to where you want to go, but to who you are meant to become. Conclusion: trusting the right pace. There comes a moment, after reflection and experience, when you begin to see your life differently. Not as a race to be won, not as a timeline to be beaten, but as a journey to be understood. A journey shaped not by how fast you move, but by how well you align your actions with the right moments. This is where the true power of timing reveals itself. Throughout this journey, one message has quietly unfolded again and again: timing is everything. Not in the sense that you must wait for perfect conditions or ideal circumstances, but in the understanding that when your preparation, awareness, and opportunity come together, your actions carry greater impact. It is not about doing more, but about doing what matters at the right time. So much of life's frustration comes from trying to force things before they are ready. You push, you rush, you strive, believing that speed will bring you closer to where you want to be. But often, it only creates resistance. It leads to exhaustion, to misalignment, to outcomes that feel incomplete or unstable. And in those moments, it can feel as though you are doing everything right, yet still not getting the results you hoped for. But what if the problem was never your effort? What if it was simply the timing? When you begin to understand this, something shifts within you. You start to let go of the need to rush your life. You realize that not everything is meant to happen immediately, and that delay is not always denial. Some things require growth. Some things require preparation. Some things require you to become the person who is ready to receive them. Letting go of the need to rush is not about giving up ambition. It is about redefining it. It is about choosing depth over speed, alignment over urgency, and purpose over pressure. It is about understanding that your life does not need to follow a timeline dictated by others, and that your progress does not need to be validated by how quickly it happens. There is a quiet freedom in releasing that pressure. When you stop trying to force everything into a specific time frame, you create space for clarity. You begin to see your path more clearly, to understand your goals more deeply, and to move with intention rather than urgency. This is where patience transforms. It is no longer something you struggle to maintain, but something you begin to embrace. You see it not as a weakness, but as a strength. A strength that allows you to pause when others rush, to reflect when others react, and to act with purpose when the moment is right. Patience gives you the ability to stay grounded in a world that is constantly moving. It allows you to remain focused on what truly matters, even when distractions and pressures are everywhere. It helps you build something that is not only successful, but also sustainable and meaningful. When you embrace patience, you begin to trust your journey in a deeper way. You understand that your path is unfolding as it should, even when it does not match your expectations. You recognize that each phase of your life has its purpose, Whether it is a period of growth, of learning, of waiting, or of action. There will still be moments of doubt. Times when you question whether you are moving too slowly, whether you should be doing more, whether you are where you are meant to be. These moments are natural, but they do not define your journey. In those moments, return to what you have learned. Remind yourself that progress is not always visible. That growth is not always immediate. That timing is not always something you can control, but something you can learn to work with. Trust is the foundation of this process. Trust in your efforts, trust in your growth, and trust in your ability to recognize the right moments when they come. Trust that the time you spend preparing, learning, and developing is not wasted, but invested. Trust that what is meant for you will align with you when you are ready. This does not mean waiting passively. It means continuing to move forward with intention. It means doing the work, building your skills, and staying open to opportunities, while also respecting the natural pace of your journey. It means understanding that readiness is just as important as opportunity. As you move forward, carry this perspective with you. Let it guide your decisions, your actions, and your mindset. Allow it to shape how you approach your goals, your relationships, and your personal growth. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing out. You are on your path, and your path has its own timing. The world may continue to celebrate speed. It may continue to highlight those who move quickly, who achieve rapidly, who seem to arrive ahead of everyone else. But what you now understand is something deeper, something more enduring. The right things in life are not determined by who gets there first. They are determined by who is ready when the moment arrives. Because in the end, it is not speed that defines your success. It is timing. And the right things come not to the fastest but to those who are ready. Thank you for reading this book. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to leave us a review. TM Light. Disclaimer. This book was created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. While every effort was made to ensure the accuracy and relevance of the content, readers should note that this cannot be considered professional advice. Readers are encouraged to apply their own judgment and consult experts where needed.